Debt, fear, relationships, the children, your health, work. When you want to give up and you need courage to continue, take heart and stay tuned as RJ Jackson writes her signature message of hope on your heart. You don't have to live where you're dying, and you don't have to die where you're living. Like every show of Conversations on Courage, you'll be informed, inspired, and encouraged to find the courage you need to succeed at home, work, and in your business. Get your pen and paper. You'll want to take notes. And now, your host, RJ Jackson, the Courage Giver.
Hello, beautiful. I'm your friend, RJ Jackson, your master encourager, accountability coach, speaker for your next event, and your down-to-earth, I'm listening, tell it like it is, I love you, girl, friend. Yep, that's me. Welcome to the conversation. This is a show for women who dare to be bold and courageous, women who live life unapologetically. This is a show where you can find the courage you need in order to succeed. This is episode 1 of Conversations on Courage. It's the one you'll want to listen to over and over again. It's the one you'll share with your friends. Matter of fact, go ahead. Why don't you do that right now? Why don't you show your sister friend that you care about her and you want her to succeed? Go ahead and share the show by hitting the share button right now. After all, sharing is caring. On today's show, we promise to fill your cup with courage one sip at a time. We're going to provide you with success strategies, inspiration, and purposeful conversation. What else are we going to do while we're together? Well, we're going to respond to your questions. You know, the ones you had the courage to ask out loud on our Facebook group. Girl, I'm working on it too. Oh, and by the way, if you're new and you're not a part of our group, we invite you to join us today on Facebook, where you will find a safe place to be you, authentically you, and meaningful relationships with women just like you. We'll also share in your story, and we will provide you with a life-giving experience. Today's show is designed for women who have the courage to live financially free and only owe love. Our featured guest today is Angel Radcliffe. She is an MBA, financial educator, speaker, author, motivator, and entrepreneur. As the author of Balling on a Budget, Angel is here today to help us find money moves and manage our credit. Will you please join me in welcoming to the table Miss RMBA, Angel Radcliffe. Angel, welcome to the table, beautiful.
Thank you so much, RJ, for having me. So excited to be here and be able to talk about money and financial habits around this time of year.
Oh, let's talk about it because we need to learn how to do something different. So let's just go right ahead, jump into the conversation. I'm just going to start by asking you that question that everybody wants to know, and I always ask, what's your story? Like, seriously, like, how did you get to be the baller you are? What's your story? Tell us about that.
Of course, everyone has a story, and no one's story is the same. For me, I'm passionate about financial literacy, and a lot of people are always asking, well, how did you become passionate about finances, or how did you get into entrepreneurship? And so everything that you go through in life really leads you to that next stepping stone and where you learn what your passion is. For me, becoming a financial educator and also being an entrepreneur, probably when I was fairly young, and seeing my mom has always been into sales and then getting into real estate and entrepreneurship, and I think it's instilled into our family where everyone has started a business or, has a business or doing something in entrepreneurship, in addition to maybe also being in corporate America but pursuing their passion. And then the financial literacy piece, I come from a family where we didn't really discuss money a lot. We didn't discuss financial habits. Not a lot of people had credit cards, so no one could really teach the children in our family, like, how do you, budget with your credit cards or manage your credit. And when I went off to college, that was not something I was familiar with. So I got myself into a financial bind. I think most college students do. You don't really have a job, but there's credit card companies who are extending you huge amounts of credit. And if no one has really taught you how to really manage that, you can really start to misuse money. And so learning my lesson, sort of graduating from college and had all of this credit card debt and, how am I going to pay this debt, and then realizing how everything really works on the financial side and how much debt to take on, and just pushed me to become a financial educator and really want to teach others how to manage their money, how to have a budget, and then more so how it really ties into entrepreneurship. So many people, they don't want to be in corporate, they want to own a business, but a lot of people don't realize that your consumer spending habits, your consumer budgeting habits, that really ties into entrepreneurship, because if you can't really manage your money and your credit personally, you won't be able to manage that for a business. And so that's a little bit of how I ended up into entrepreneurship and teaching not only consumers but small business owners about financial management.
I love how you reminded us that it's so true. What we go through in life really propels us into our purpose. And sometimes we go through and we're kicking rocks and we're screaming, not even realizing that it is helping us in our destiny. You said, but you got to college and you graduated with all this debt. How did you deal with it? What did you do to turn it around?
Well, I think the first step was more so just understanding how to manage it. Because most families, they don't really talk about finances, not only on the credit card part, but also the student loan part for those who have to take out student loans. And so when you graduate, many people go into college with this expectation that a degree will instantly earn them a six-figure job, and it doesn't necessarily work that way. So when you have families that maybe have first-generation college students, no one's there to really teach them the structure of corporate America or how long it will actually take you to become successful, or more people define success based on, getting into a higher position, such as like a director, or earning those six figures, where some people may define success by following their passion. So no one's really teaching people as far as like how to manage it. You really just have to learn it on your own. And so I was thrust out there, and I had this vision of, okay, I have a degree and I'm going to make all this money, and reality hit when I received my first job offer, and it was, to me, it was pennies. I was like, how can I afford to pay my bills and live? So it was more sitting down, making a plan, just being realistic. But then you also have to be ambitious to move yourself to the next level. So I think some people become complacent, or they lose that ambition once they really see the reality of what you're going to make after college. And they're not really wanting to move forward to 5 years or 10 years to obtain a position that's going to earn them six figures. Everyone is in this now phase of, I want it now, and if you can't have it now or instantaneously, they really give up on the goal. And so for me, I was like, okay, I know I can't earn this amount of money coming straight out of college without any experience, but I need a plan to pay down my debt. I need a plan to make myself better. It was not something that was instant. It took a few years, and it just really took for me to not be so lenient and be strict on my finances, and tell myself, okay, I'm not going to go shopping. I'm not going to do these things with disposable income most people do. Not going to get my nails done every month or every 2 weeks, or finding different ways to save money, picking up a second job, or having that side hustle, where some people will say, okay, I only have time to go to one job. And I think at the time, the first maybe 5 years after college, I had a full-time job and multiple side hustles to pay down my debt and become better.
Let's talk about a few things you said, and I want to start right there. You said that most people graduate from college, and this is a message especially for those who are in college or considering college right now. So, Angel, you said most people graduate from college thinking they're going to make that six-figure income. Well, let's do a reality check, because the truth is you can graduate from college, get that degree, get all that information, and still not be able to find a job in your field. So just keep that in mind as you go to college. And as Angel said, hey, create a plan, be willing to wait, and recognize that everything you go through, even college, is setting you up for your destiny. Angel, those were some great points you shared with us. Now, one of the things you said in the answer to my question is, how did you manage? How did you get through it? You said, hey, I had to figure it out. I had to be willing to invest in myself, learn something new, research some information, and that has become a part of your purpose, because you now teach and empower entrepreneurs through financial management. So tell us, how do you actually do that?
And so, as I said before, consumer spending habits and managing your credit, it all relates to entrepreneurship. And there's so many people who they want to make fast money, or they don't like the structure of corporate America, or they don't want someone telling them what to do. So everyone wants to start their own business. There are people who still have a business and they may have a full-time job and waiting to take that step to go to full-time entrepreneurship. And I meet so many people while I'm out networking who, just in conversation, you'll find out they have a business, but they don't have business credit. They don't have a business bank account. They're not separating their personal income from their business income. And so I always try to stress the importance of your business income is something separate from personal. You have to have a business bank account, how those entities are completely separate, and the consumer management part ties into the business management. And so if you can't manage your finances on a consumer level, there's no way you'll be able to manage revenues and expenses for a small business. So think about it. There's so many people who go through the overdraft fees, or having a negative checking account, or having to take out a loan in case of an emergency because they don't have anything in savings. Well, the same thing really happens in business, where you have people who don't necessarily plan for certain expenses, or they can't pay their employees. They may not be able to pay for their marketing. And so understanding the good financial habits, good credit, how to maintain good credit, it's the same thing that's happening in entrepreneurship for myself. So I do one-on-one sessions, I host workshops, online classes, and teaching entrepreneurs how to really separate the entities, how to build business credit, and then more so what they need to do as far as tracking those revenues and expenses so that they're on point with their business and they're more efficient.
Well, could you give us a quick tip on how to build our credit, whether that's for consumer or business use?
Well, I'll start out more so on a personal level, and it really applies both ways. So on a personal level, as far as someone who does not have credit, they're wanting to build credit, definitely opening a revolving account such as a credit card, making those on-time payments. Once you have payments that are on time for 6 months to 1 year, it's really going to help boost your score and build your profile to where you can start obtaining additional credit, open-end lines of credit, additional credit cards. But credit utilization is very important. So let's say someone has a credit card and the limit is $1,000. So someone who does not have any credit, most of the time they'll receive a low-limit credit card of $500 or $1,000. And for that person, they're like, oh, yay, this is a lot of money because this is my first credit card. I've never had a credit card. And so the first thing they go and do is they go and shop and they run it up. They run up $500 or $1,000. And there's some people who may be listening and they're like, what? They're like, why are they're going to go and spend the whole $500? There's actually people who do this. So when it comes to your credit utilization, having a good utilization is using less than 30% of your available credit, and that applies with business credit as well. So if your credit card has a $1,000 limit, you don't want to use more than 30% of that limit, which would be $300. And so staying below that 30% is going to keep you more so of a low risk to the credit issuer. Someone who's going out and they're charging $900 on a $1,000 credit card, it looks as though that person has no other sources of income or credit, and so it makes them more high risk to the issuer, where that credit issuer bank will be less likely to increase that limit going down the line. And then in most cases, especially on the consumer level, when you get into building larger credit lines or purchasing a home or purchasing a vehicle, most lenders like to see those utilizations way less than 30%. Some like to see less than 10% utilization. And so I always tell people, just because you're approved for a certain amount doesn't mean that you actually need to go and use that entire credit line. So it's a tricky game when it comes to credit.
It sounds tricky, especially if no one has ever taught us this.
You're listening to Conversations on Courage with your host, RJ Jackson, the Courage Giver. Quick, call your friends and invite them to listen in.
So let's just do a hypothetical situation. Let's say I was that person. I got that credit card, I ran it up, and then all of a sudden I learned not a good idea, and I want to turn things around. Can I? Does it take a long time? Is it something I can do quickly that would make a great impact? Help me, help.
Of course. So everyone's been in a bad situation before. I don't think anyone's perfect. So, of course, there's people who have maybe had a late payment, or maybe they've used more credit than what they should have used. There's always a way to turn it around. And so at any time you have to make the decision and say, all right, I want to better my credit. There's so many different aspects that go into like your credit score and your credit. So for someone who maybe has collections or charge-offs, or maybe your limits are just high and you're way above that 30%, work towards paying down your balances to where they're below that 30%. If it's more of an issue where there's collections or judgments, those are issues that you want to make sure that the information that's reporting to the credit bureau is correct, because a lot of times that information is incorrect. So I always tell people, monitor their credit, make sure it's reporting accurately. If it's reporting incorrectly, those are items that you want to really dispute and have removed from your credit report. You want to negotiate with the creditors, especially if you have something in collections. So this is very important, because some people just assume they have something in collections, they're going to pay it, and it's going to help their credit. Just because you pay off a collection does not make that item disappear. Anything that's negative on a credit report can remain for 7 years. And even if you paid it, it's still going to show as a collection. It will just show a paid collection. So I always tell people, work with the creditor, receive a letter from the creditor in writing that says they're going to remove it. It's a negotiation tactic. They want you to pay. They're calling you every day. The collection agency may call 5 times, 10 times a day getting you to pay this bill. Well, that's your power to negotiate with them and say, okay, well, I can pay it if you agree to remove this from my credit. But the key is having something in writing, so once you pay it, that removes that item and in turn helps boost your credit score.
Those are absolutely great tips that I think anyone can start following. Now, it seems scary, though, to do this by yourself. So I would like to know, is this something you help people with?
I do not. I more so teach people how to do those things on their own. So there's a lot of people, and people may see it all the time online or in person, or they'll see the credit repair services, and people go out and they pay $1,000, $2,000 for someone to, quote, unquote, repair their credit. That's not something that I promote. I always tell people the processes are so simple. It really boils down to taking the time out, whether it's 1 hour a week or you want to do something 1 to 2 hours a month, and monitoring your credit and sending dispute letters and making sure that you know what's going on with your credit. It's more so not putting that responsibility in someone else's hands. So I don't like to tell people to go and pay for credit repair. I like to empower people and say, this is information you need to know, and you need to know how your credit works. You need to know what is impacting your credit. And so that's more so my strategy.
Awesome. You help people by empowering them to show them how to do what they need to do so that they can eat for a lifetime instead of fishing for the day. So that's awesome. People need to know there are people who will walk with them and empower them. So it's good to know that someone is not just wanting a quick fix. They can come and get empowered. And you talked about that earlier, actually, when you talked about we live in a microwave society, and that's not your take. Your take is, hey, it's going to take time. So awesome. So, okay, we've talked about credit. Let's talk about dollar bills. Let's talk about Jackson and those guys. So, we get money, and here, especially in America, because we do have people who are not from America listening, but here in America, every month we have some kind of holiday, some reason to go spend your Jacksons and your money. What do you think about that, and what suggestion or advice, empowerment strategy do you have for our listeners to help them hold on to their money and save their money during the holiday season?
Well, this time of year is especially hard. I've always told people to really be careful with their spending towards the end of the year, because there's so many holidays that are going back to back, and people get sucked into the holiday season and wanting to celebrate and buy gifts and see family, and those things really add up. And so most of the time you're just so into work or your family, and 2 weeks pass by, and here's one holiday, and then here's the next holiday, and it really seems like Thanksgiving was yesterday, and it was 2 weeks ago, and now we're 3 weeks from Christmas. But January will come around, and people will start looking at their bank accounts and their credit card bills and say, okay, I spent way too much money. I always tell people the holidays is something that you should plan for. You should know if you can afford to travel during the holidays. You don't have to travel for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Maybe choose one or the other. And then when it comes to shopping or buying gifts, that's not something that should really get you into debt. That's something that maybe you should have been planning for all year, to set aside a certain amount of money to buy maybe a few Christmas gifts. I always tell people, don't go overboard. If you want to participate in Christmas or whatever traditions people are following, maybe purchase one gift. Don't go into debt for the holidays. And so that's another issue I'd say I more so struggled with when I was younger as well, and coming out of college, and I would always find myself broke around the holidays, the end of the year, the last few months of the year. I never had any money. And then I realized, I was like, because you're getting sucked into the holidays, and you have Thanksgiving, and then you have Christmas, and then you have New Year's, and you want to participate in everything, but if you haven't planned for it, then you just have to learn to say no and be strict on yourself.
Just say no. It's easier said than done, but just say no. So thank you for that tip. You talked about New Year rolling in. We're going to look back and, as you said, scream like, did I spend all that money? So what money moves can we make to assure that we're going to be on track with our savings, with our giving, and with our purchases? And if you will, please tell us what money moves you got planned.
Well, definitely December is a good time of the year to start reviewing your finances and see if you've met your financial goals. I always tell people try to set maybe a savings goal for the year. If you're not setting them for every quarter, then set a yearly goal. See if you've met that goal. If you haven't met that goal, then see where you can start cutting down your expenses. Maybe start looking at some of your bills, how you can cut those down, such as car insurance or electric bill or a phone bill, just different ways that you can really save money. Start looking at your what you're contributing to your 401k or your IRA and up the ante, because you want to challenge yourself every year to do better. And so if every year you're saying, all right, well, my goal is to put $2,000 or $3,000 in savings, well, to some people, that may be nothing to accomplish. They may accomplish that in the first few months of the year. Some people accomplish that when they receive their tax return. So up the ante and increase your savings goal, increase the percentage on your 401k, maybe do something for a side hustle to pick up some additional income. And some people think, okay, they have an additional income, that's their spending money. I always say take the additional income and put that towards investments, because in the end, it's definitely going to pay off. Open a high-interest savings account. Some people will have the regular savings account with their bank. Those savings accounts, they don't really generate dividends. So you want to open something that's high interest, that's like 2% or above. And so once you're saving your money and you're putting your money there, you're actually going to have a better return on your savings. So start looking at those options and just preparing to do better and increase your finances.
Certainly calls for discipline, that's for sure. So how about you? Do you have a particular money move that you can share with us that you're planning for 2019?
I do. I do have a money move, but it definitely involves a few different real estate options and just really diversifying my own personal portfolio.
So go ahead, girl, and make it happen. Now, one of the things you talked about, Angel, that I can really attest to is at the end of the year, I look at my financial goals. And one thing I want to suggest people to do is to ask questions. Like I called the utility companies and I said, do you have any programs? I also asked them, is there any way I can decrease this bill? Do you have any specials or promotions? And you'll be surprised what you can find out and how you can save money just by simply asking a question. I love that you shared how important it is to review and do better, because those two things are important.
It is. And so most people just don't have the courage to step up and ask questions. And I always say, if you never ask, the answer will always be no. So there's no harm in asking how you can save money.
And it takes courage to ask. So let's get some words of courage from you so that we can help those who are listening be empowered to flex their financial muscle. What words of encouragement can you leave us with?
Words of encouragement, I'd say definitely just really be true to yourself. There's so many people who really just get sucked into what their friends are doing or what their family is doing, and so they're tempted to spend money. And so I always say, when you're true to yourself and when you know what your goals are, you don't necessarily have to share those goals with everyone, because there may be someone who has a goal as well, and it becomes more of a competition. So be true to yourself, know what your goals are, know what you're going to say no to financially, know what you can afford, sort of give yourself an oath, right? And so there's New Year's resolutions, which I'm not really a huge fan of New Year's resolutions, because there's so many people who believe that you can only start this new goal on January 1st. Obviously, you can start something new any time of the year. Give yourself a head start. It's already the first week of December. Why not start working on some of those goals now and saying, okay, I'm going to choose to change my financial situation now. I'm going to monitor my credit, or I'm going to open a savings account, because there's so many people who don't have a savings account. I mentioned that earlier as far as just even having one, but there's some people you meet and they say, I don't have a savings account. push yourself to do something that you've never done before, or push yourself to just have a goal. Maybe it's increasing your credit score. Maybe it's looking into purchasing your first home. Maybe it's buying a car and seeing how long it's going to take you. And don't wait until December of 2019 to go back and review those goals. Start reviewing those goals maybe every month or every quarter just to make sure that you are on track. And don't be afraid to ask questions, because there's so many people who will say, okay, I would like to move forward with my finances, but I don't know how, or I would like to look into an investment property, but I don't know how. And so they just keep going on year to year with all of these things that they want to do. And when you ask them why they haven't done it, they just say, oh, I don't know how. I haven't found the resources. Well, push yourself to maybe take an hour out of your day to make some phone calls and ask questions or attend some networking groups so that you can find out how and what you need to achieve your goals.
Push yourself, girl. Push yourself, because if you keep doing the same thing, girl, you're going to keep getting the same results. Flex your financial muscles. Angel, I know that's what you're doing, because you are balling on a budget, and you even have a book that will help us do the same thing. So tell us, girl, tell us about the book. Tell us how we can connect with you, how we can purchase the book, and how we can be empowered by your wisdom when it comes to our finances.
So the book, Balling on a Budget, it's available on Amazon.com as well as Barnes & Noble. There's also personal autograph copies available on my website, which is angelradcliffe.com or missrmba.com. And so it's actually a workbook. And so it's funny how it really came about. It really started out just as something I would just discuss online, and I would always use the term. And one day I said, you know what, I'm going to turn this into a workbook, and turned it into a workbook. And now it's my go-to for the workshops that I host. So I've been a financial educator for the last 6 years, and it was always maybe using someone else's materials, or we have a whiteboard that's there at the workshop. And then having the workbook is just an addition, and it's really a plus because everyone learns differently. There's people who are visual learners. There's people who are auditory learners. And so it really just gives the people who are more like visual and needing to write things out a chance to see things on paper and sort of write down what their financial goals are, or take notes, or start their budget on paper. So I always tell people writing out your budget is the first step to even having a budget. So once you write it out, then you can turn it into an electronic budget and start tracking. It's available online, and happy to share and answer questions, and would definitely hope that everyone has a budget, or if they don't have a budget, then they pick up a copy and learn what they need to do to obtain one.
And how can we connect with you to attend one of your workshops, get further information, or just follow you and journey with you?
So on all social media, I'm Miss RMBA, MISSRMBA, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I'll typically post whenever I'm going to have a workshop or if I'm speaking at someone's event. And the website is just my name, angelradcliffe.com, and it also reverts to missrmba.com as well, MISSRMBA.com. And so on either of the links, you'll see where you can purchase a book, you can contact me, or you can just send a message and ask some financial questions.
If you missed that information, you can always find it on our website, conversationsoncourage.com. That's conversationsoncourage.com. Angel, it's been a delight and an amazing experience sitting here at the table with you. Girl, I feel that much richer. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. We look forward to staying connected with you, journeying with you, and learning from you. The time is now to make some money moves. So we're getting ready to move right now. I want to invite you to join me in starting where you are, using what you have, and doing what you can, because it's time to bust a move. a money move. It sure is. Now, listen, if we're going to make some money moves, we're going to have to understand the importance, as Angel shared with us, about investing. Invest in yourself. Invest in other people. And when it comes to investing your money, listen, it's not about your salary that makes you rich. It's about your spending and your saving habits. So the best investment requires you to wait and use your courage. It's about taking a risk. So what are we going to do with our money from now on? We're going to earn, we're going to save, we're going to invest, and we're going to give. Because as my friend and mentor Zig Ziglar would say, life is not measured by what you have. Life is measured by what you give. I'm RJ Jackson, the Courage Giver, your friend, your master encourager, the speaker for your next event, and it would be my pleasure to walk with you. Thanks so much for listening, tuning in. Join us again next week here at the table for another epic conversation on courage.
Thank you for joining us for Conversations on Courage. Now that you've been inspired, informed, and encouraged, it's time for you to take action. So head on over to thecouragegiver.com. That's thecouragegiver.com and connect with RJ for a personal conversation on courage. She's waiting to help you take the risk you need to succeed.